I can speak like that, or do we actually need a mic? Is it better with a mic? Okay. So I will try to do my best with the mic, though I move a lot with my hands and I have expanded gestures, so sorry in advance for that. I will try to do my best then. And just wanted to say hi, and I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be also in Pakistan, and it's so great to see you all, guys, and hope to share some insights from the European and Polish market and startups. It's actually my third time in Pakistan, so I feel with every time I'm here, I'm more and more familiar, and I feel more and more familiar with the culture, the people. I really enjoy coming here, and actually this time, this trip, I'm also discovering more and more about the Pakistani startups, but also the systems, networks, and the landscapes in terms of business and innovation that you have here in the country, which makes me also very happy about that. So maybe briefly before I go to the topics, who I am, and just very briefly what type of experience I can share with you. As you see, my main experience is focused on mentoring and programs related to mentoring and knowledge transfer. Here are some of the programs that I'm associated with, but actually over 2 years ago I've started my journey in mentoring and knowledge transfer, helping people to apply for universities abroad, getting better education. That was actually working in a startup, which I had no idea about, because back then in Poland in 2012 and 2011, startup was not a word. You actually didn't know what actually startup is. So I thought that I'm just working in a company, tech-based, which is based in Estonia. Estonia is really small but a great country, very fast developing one. So after I moved to Estonia for a while from Poland, and then I started working with this startup, EdTech-based startup, and then came back to Poland, developed this a bit, but I also had the chance to work with various organizations for Poland that allow me to have the bigger exposure on the innovation and startup market in Poland and Europe. Various, for example, Women in Tech initiatives, because one of the organization has been working with is Women in Tech related NGO, it's called Perspektywy, and for the 3 years I've been a chief coordinator of the conference, which happened to be the biggest in this Central Europe region. We have now over 8,000 people coming every year for this conference. It's 2 days, of course, for men and women, everybody are welcome, but it's just we're focusing very much on empowering women to go into tech positions, both leadership and technical. So this is the global conference that I've been organizing, but also I'm working a lot with mentors who are mentoring young people and also entrepreneurs in the tech sector. Also, my part of career is related to corporate, which I did on purpose, kind of, because I always worked with corporations and I never worked inside, and I wanted to see how this is actually when you work inside and what are the differences, how does it actually work, what are the operations on the corporation side. Therefore, I have joined the energy company based in France. It's a French one, but global, Veolia. And I'm part of the innovation department. So, but my scope of work at Veolia is related to, again, helping managers to design innovative products and services, building the knowledge transfer space, programs, and education related actually. So I work with engineers, but also with the business departments of the company, various ones, at the same time. So that is, I think, the most important, and also the information that I will be sharing with you, I managed to gather thanks to the organizations I'm associated with. One is the Global Shapers community, and this is related to World Economic Forum, which is global organization, but also Aspen Institute for Central Europe, which is a think tank. And later I would also like to share with you and ask you a lot of questions. What do you think about startups and this innovation sector in general? I find that one of the most important things is just to exchange ideas and to meet other people from different backgrounds, cultures, but also from different departments, which, from my perspective, organizations like think tanks, like Aspen, or like Global Shapers community helped a lot in that process in my case. So these are the most important things related to my background and how I would like to help or maybe share the knowledge I managed to gather and observe. But a little bit about Poland, because we are actually not as big country as Pakistan, so it's actually 5 times less, right? Almost in terms of the space, so Pakistan is huge. So we would be like maybe one district of your country. But the good thing what in geopolitical, even though now it's a really tough situation, as you know, because one of our neighbors is Ukraine. We have also the border with Germany, but we are really, really in the center of Europe. So in terms of supply chain, in terms of how the country is and where it's situated, it's actually really much in the center of Europe. We are part of the Schengen as well, and as part of the European Union. Therefore, it's also treated as like one joint market with other 20 plus countries. So it's quite far from Islamabad, but I believe that we have quite a few things that we share in common, which I will share later. So that was a bit about geography, so where Poland is and what is the more or less geographical landscape when it comes to the country, and how does it relate to the figures and the most important statistics when it comes to the market. So you see, even though we are not as large by Pakistani standards, we are still one of the largest economy in the European Union. Poland is actually largest in Central Eastern Europe, so CE region we call it, and the 6th largest in Europe, with the GDP twice as size of Pakistani GDP, and it's rapidly growing, also because of the fact that Poland went through a global transition, and huge transition at the beginning of the 90s, because before that we were under the Iron Curtain, that was a communist country. Then the situation has changed, and it also has changed a lot at the beginning of 2000. Joined the European Union. It also had the great impact on the economy and its growth. So it's really a country with a huge potential when it comes to development. Also the huge power. Then with the startups in a country, in the area, these are the data from the last year, so this should be relevant. So we have around 3,000 startups that are now active in Poland with 300 co-working spaces. By co-working spaces, I mean spaces not only as big as NICAT here, though these spaces are quite good in Poland as well, but also smaller co-working spaces where you can just rent a small office for hours and work with your team on the products. But also there are over 130 venture capital firms, so VC is one of the key factors of success and one of the financial distribution, I would say, and many acceleration programs and tech conferences, and it's still growing. When I observed that in the last 5 years, it has changed rapidly all over Europe, especially also, of course, in Germany. There are plenty of hubs and places where you can develop technology, but or also go for various conferences, etc. Though Poland has numerous, I would say probably at least around 100 various events related to, or smaller or bigger related to developing new products or exchanging ideas in terms of startups or searching for the financing. So the areas in which Poland is operating mainly are these related to IT sector quite a lot. everything which is related to software, but also a bit of a hardware. So with emphasis, especially now with what the whole world is analyzing, so AI, big data, analytics, IoT. And there are new areas also emerging. Of course, always the startups related to marketplace are those which are really growing, but also things related to fintech, marketing, etc. For example, one of these fintech, which is quite popular, and I didn't even realize that Poland, in terms of the fintech programs, is so developed that there is a company called Blik, for example, and there is the ability that in Poland you don't have to pay with your card number, you don't have to have a card with you to pay for what. The only thing you need is just your phone number, and you can make a money transfer knowing your phone number and your friend's phone number if you want to, for example, give them back some money when you're, I don't know, eating dinner together and you're seeing the cost, etc. So I also see, when I was in one of the conferences, I will mention later, that all the startups related to fintech are actually growing a lot, and this is, I see as a trend in Europe. And the capital sources, because I actually don't understand what exactly did you say when you were talking in Urdu, but I've heard finance few times. So I think, like, doesn't matter where you are, which part of the world, finance is always a key factor and key sector when you think about the ideas. So this is something that we all have in common. So financing, it's the bootstrapping, VCs, which are quite popular, angel investors, and we also have a huge support, which I will mention in a moment, from the Center of Research and Development, and basically governmental and EU funds. So governmental and EU funds are important part of building an innovation ecosystem in Poland and in general in Europe. Even though it may be a hassle from time to time, because it takes a while to apply for that, and it depends on at what stage your startup is or your company is. Still, if it's also a pre-seed level, or if it's after the first round, or anything else, you can find a dedicated fund, which is European-based, and you can apply for the grant and have something for the very beginning. So these are the most important information. And going further, this dynamic ecosystem is really growing, and it's, even though we have seen as a country and also in a region, especially when the war has started and with the changes now, that there is a bit, that the market is a bit slower, that there's a higher risk awareness, that it's not as easy, at least what my friends say, who are now searching for the investors, to find investors for the next rounds as it used to be. It's still quite thriving, and we see Poland as a market with many opportunities, and especially with technology. And I think this is one of the many things probably we have in common, because Pakistan is also seen as a source of a tech talent, especially, like, right, you're kind of being, your talents are being outsourced to many countries in the world. The same with Poland, and also the tech sector, in terms of, for example, compared with Poland to countries in Western Europe or in the US, is still much cheaper. So it is, for the investors, they can actually get better return on their investment, because it doesn't cost as much as, for example, taking an AI team, or based on, or IT people who are, for example, based in Norway or Holland or anywhere else. So even though there were some challenges, you see that the market is still growing, and the trends are as everywhere: AI, machine learning, things that you can digitalize, scale up, and things that are related to digital transformation, also everything related to green economy. I see this as a link between where I work, so energy company, and the startups. because of the Fit for 55 and various European legislations related to decarbonization of the assets and the fact that the green economy is the critical one and now we're working towards it and the net zero, there is a huge potential in developing this type of startups in business, but also because of the corporations such as the one I'm working with are working with startups in terms of developing together products and services, in finding ways how to work together and, for example, take the know-how that the university people have, or the researchers, or the MVP, or the prototype that a startup built, and incorporate it in the business that is provided by the company, by the corporate sector, and to share the profit together. So there are also, of course, challenges in terms of the market, like I think everywhere, especially. I think that the startup is nice, funny, fancy name. Everybody now wants to have a startup. So I don't know how it is here, but I have the feeling that in Poland, sometimes even a bakery can be called a startup. You know, they just have this tendency that whatever they do, they would like to call startup. So the challenges that are crucial for the market is also that it's, of course, not that easy to scale things up, especially when the competition is high, right? So this is kind of quite competitive in terms of industry, in terms of career environment. And, of course, this capital, if you have people investing in your company, then from what I've heard, what I learned, there are many stories where you have to be really, really, let's say, conscious and very aware of what can be the circumstances, because sometimes when you get the European funds, when you get the funds from the from the government, from the sources that are provided by the government, you still can keep the, for example, intellectual property, right? So in terms of the private funds and the investors, how they invest in startups, that can be also a tricky thing. So we do have some emerging unicorns, and I will show you some names and brands that you may be familiar with, or maybe not, because maybe they are just mainly in Europe or in the US, because the scale is that half of the Polish startups who are working on their products want to go abroad, mainly to Germany, mainly to US and European countries, though we often think that Poland itself is big enough market to have the MVP and to check what is the need of the market and do we solve actually clients' problems. So the sustainability, which I mentioned, is really important and crucial when it comes to that. But what actually helps to develop the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship, or intrapreneurship, how I would call it, because the startup, we can call it a company, we can call it a startup, doesn't matter. It's rather just the fact that you want to create something and you see the problem that you want to solve, right? So this is all based on seeing the possibility. Usually the most efficient startups, usually the ones who are the most successful, probably you have a similar opinion or you observe the same, are those which found where people found that there's an issue with something. Usually they lack something, they have a problem with something, and they see that everybody else also struggle with it. And they think, okay, this is the way, maybe there's a business potential, maybe we can do something to solve that issue, to work on that. So there's always, behind every successful startup, I have the feeling that there is really clear need for change. They're really focused. What is the project that they want to develop and what is the problem that they're solving? And thanks to that, they're building the platform for stakeholders and also people who want to get involved in terms of their clients, but also in terms of the people who are related to this problem somehow. And fixing this problem would also make their life easier, those people life easier. So, as I mentioned, is that the major technical talent is the one of the things that Poland has, and I believe this is something that we are really sharing as countries, because I see how many students are, how many of you are in STEM-related courses? Can you raise your hands? or science, technology, etc. Okay, that's quite a few. And how many of you is in business? Okay, I see. Because what I also see as a huge change, and maybe not as huge as it should be, so maybe, let me put it this way. What I also see is changing, and it's very important that it changes rapidly, is that the education systems are also changing to match the needs of the market, in the sense that, for example, in Poland it's more often now to, for example, join courses. So you can study business, but you can also go in a background with a background from technology. Thanks to the European system that allows to go first for the BA and later for the master courses, students started, and when we develop our careers, we started not to think in a very simple terms, like you go for 5 years. Before that, you were going for 5 years to university, studied one thing, and then that was usually the end, right? Now it's more of the Bolognian system that was introduced. You can go for a BA, for example, in science, but you can do your master's in innovation and business. Also the fact that thanks to cooperation with businesses, universities develop more programs where they have the experts coming and teaching about showing the case study, teaching about the businesses, doing the PhDs which are applicable and based on the industry problems. So what is one of these things that I see as the major technical talent which helps definitely to grow innovation culture? Another is this, what I just mentioned, constant government support. So even though there is a change in the government, for example, now we have a new government, still thanks to, fortunately, also the change in the government that we have now, the European funds and the governmental funds are available. And the cross-border collaboration is also important. Therefore, thanks to what I mentioned before, being surrounded by, like Europe is pretty small, right? When you think about it, just 2 hours and you go to another place, to another country with a totally different culture. But also having this urge to go abroad, to reach out for new clients, new potentials, and the knowledge transfer, which is crucial. What I mean by knowledge transfer? Here are some logos of the programs that I wanted you to get familiar with and how they work in the European ecosystem. For example, Incredibles, here the program here, also with EduLab or the She's Innovation Academy are mentoring programs. She's Innovation Academy is a mentoring program that is dedicated to women who start their startups, and they're up to 35 years old, and the startups can be at the very basic level. So this is all these are free for people who apply for them. So they can, this is dedicated to women leadership and technological startups led by women. These ones, like Incredibles or EduLab, are just general. Incredibles is the program funded by one of the wealthiest Polish businessmen who decided to have a program based on mentorship where the startups, doesn't matter the sector, if they have the potential to thrive and to scale up, they are matched with the business mentors, they are provided certain knowledge in terms of legal issues, in terms of accounting, etc., management, and so on. EduLab is, for example, accelerator for edtech startups. So if you're thinking about something which is actually rooted in technology but serves education purposes, then, for example, this one also provides the trainings, mentoring, and it ends with the pitching session when investors can vote whether they want to fund your projects or not. But also PFR Ventures, and this is one of the biggest, actually this is the biggest governmental fund in Central Europe. That is the governmental fund when you can actually apply, and it's dedicated to invest in the global, in the startup potential in innovation in Poland, and sharing the benefits as well together. But EITE, European Institute of Innovation and Technology, is actually an independent European body which is focused on 9 different sectors. One is clean energy, another is food industry, another one is med tech, so everything related to healthcare and technology, and so on and so forth, clean energy. And this is also a startup accelerator. But also what I think it's really great, and I'm really happy that we're meeting here actually today, we have something like these areas like NICAT 2, for example, CIC Cambridge Innovation Center. These are the hubs which are crucial for the innovators to meet, because they are like, here you are, a platform to meet from the academia, business, industry, NGO, sector, everybody to. And sometimes there are no other places where would you be able to meet if not in places like that. So these hubs usually provide co-working space, workshops, networking platform, events. They work with different businesses. They work with the government. They work with the NGO sector on joint projects, but also they provide a space where you can actually share your ideas and think and learn and search for the partners, but also for your future maybe co-workers, not only your investors. So Huge Thing is an example for the operator. What is an operator? Huge Thing is a company that I had the chance to work with when on my corporate side. So imagine the situation when you have a corporate environment, ecosystem, which is very, very structured, very organized, extremely legalized. It's everything, so there's the legal aspects in everything of what you do. And then you have startup, which just started, which is a pure chaos, which has its MVP or had already a pilot, but they're searching for investment. So one of the role of these operators is that they create kind of a bridge between these different ecosystems. So they help to translate one language and another language, so it kind of can be both on the same page, and you can figure out how to, for example, apply for the funds, or how you can use the money the best, and how to actually make this cooperation work. Therefore, with the operators like that, the company I work at last year used over 1 million zlotys. That would be something like $200,000, something like that, in terms of investing in innovation. So there are some startups that are growing in Poland and are known internationally. As I mentioned, it's hard for 3,000 startups, to put all of it together here. But I just wanted to name a few, which maybe if you are familiar with anything, let me know. Because Brainly, I didn't even realize that it's going to grow as big, because I remember when this startup was established, and it's the biggest in the world platform for exchanging knowledge. So this is it combines students with teachers, like communicates, builds the bridge to communicate with students and teachers, and it links them together in order to solve some problems. So if you have a homework to do, if you have a problem with something, don't know how to do it. It was before GPT, by the way, so that was really innovative by the time. Then you can share your knowledge, and you can help to each other to solve the task. Doc Planner, I think it's now a unicorn. It's called Znany Lekarz, like your doctor. That's in Poland. But Doc Planner means that you can find a doctor near you, and you sign up for a visit, and there is a recommendation system which works really, really well. And actually, I don't know how I lived without that. Before that I was kind of managing, Googling for the doctors I needed, but now Doc Planner is one of the most used tools in Poland in terms of booking your visits. Inru, the startup here, is actually very interesting because it's based on LED technology and LED displays, and they are able to produce the LED which is as thin as paper. So that means their screens, the LED screens, can be very thin and can be reusable. It's recycled. Therefore, the technology is clean, and at the same time you can have LED screens on literally everything, which is even a piece of paper or a piece of cloth or anything like that, and they made it very affordable. There are also startups related to aerospace, satellite imagery, personal care, supply chain, as you see, or a lot of startups related to finance and payroll optimization, like the one which allows to manage your your finance and your invoices. The one I know as well, and I've been using, for example, a lot, I don't know, probably you have something like that similar here, that since I'm at the same time fully employed in a corporate sector, but I own my own company, I have to, send invoices and manage these invoices. For that, few years ago, I would use just an accountant. I would pay an accountant to do that for me. Now I can just use a software which costs me literally nothing per month, very little money, and can easily manage these things for me, and actually cuts down my expenditure for the accountant that I would have. So, but based on that, I also wanted to share with you some conferences that happen to be in Europe somewhere, would be probably interesting for you to. But tell me, what are the conferences or events that you usually go to here in Pakistan in terms of innovation and technology? I don't hear. Okay, so, because those which I find really interesting, and I recommend you, if you will have the chance, to go to Lisbon for Web Summit. This is actually one of the biggest, I think. It lasts 4 days. There are thousands of startups. So in this sense, you can all, and the last time I've been there, it was 2 years ago. So I've met many Polish startups, obviously, but I also saw Pakistani startups. And this is a place where you can have all investors also in one place, but also the startup ecosystem. But there's lots of information, lots of knowledge being exchanged, and it's very good in terms of network. Hello Tomorrow, this is one of the conferences in Europe, in Paris, related to the startup and innovation sector. So with 3,000 attendees, and it's going to happen in March. Also 2024, so this is the conference. Also, it's very important, even if you cannot attend these conferences, for example, they often do the streaming online. So it's always worth checking, because quite often what is happening on the main stage is streamed online. Slush, I think this is the one which is also well known in Europe, but also worldwide. So many startups come there to search for investors, and many investors come there because they know that they will meet startups which are already legible, which are good enough or established enough to be invested in and to develop a project together. This one is in Helsinki, and there's in Warsaw that I wanted to, if you have the chance, I recommend you. This is the city I live in. I like it very much, and Deep Tech is a conference which is dedicated directly to startups in deep tech sector. So everything what is related to generative AI. There is also the pitching contest during that event. But there's a chance to meet from all over Europe investors plus startups that are already doing pilots of their product or project, and they already have some results based. But one important thing related to innovation, and what helps to develop innovation, from my opinion and my observation, is to closely work with academia. So where business works with academia, that actually creates the potential for innovation. Why? Because usually, the scientists if they are stuck in their labs, if they're stuck in their papers, they don't really see the applicable part of the work that they can do. And actually, business needs that a lot. And today, we have a world where we cannot have in separation anymore. Business and academia, and they cannot be separated anymore, because just joined together they create value. So the real value is created when you have all stakeholders sitting around in the same at the same time and discussing. Therefore, how to make it happen is a very good question that many people try to answer. And there are various platforms that can allow that. How does it work in Poland? Or in Europe? Fraunhofer is like the European MIT. This is an institute that is based in Germany. It's one of the oldest. They have patents, many technology they develop. They are responsible for creating new patents in Europe as well, but also they work a lot with the business, and their researchers and their PhD, their doctorates, work in their labs in order to develop the technology, especially for automotive sector, but also for the space industry, etc., etc. And they also work with a consulting company. Quite similar is the Polish Łukasiewicz Institute. Łukasiewicz is the name of the one of the most famous Polish innovators. Then with sustainable technologies, Łukasiewicz offers something that the corporate sector doesn't have. That means labs, that means to the network of scientists, labs, etc. There is an interesting thing that this is Porozumienie Spółek Celowych, means like the association for the spin-offs or the various bodies at the universities, which kind of gathered together. Generally, this is like 34 universities, Polish universities, which came together, created one organization, one body, and in this sense, they are all working with the business and the industry in order to develop the technologies and offer their expertise. So, for example, if you're a company, you want to search for innovation in clean tech or in, I don't know, education or in medical sector, you just can go to this organization and say, hey, we have this and this amount of money to invest, we have this problem, we are searching for a solution, we want to do scouting, we want to check what are possibilities on the market. And this organization sends you a report, prepares some opportunities, and actually connects you with the right institutes in Poland, in the departments and certain universities that deal with the topic that you want to develop or you want to solve. So that makes this much easier, because usually when you are working in a corporate sector or when you're working in an academia or startup, you may not know other people. You don't know where to go or how to start, right? And they are the ones who kind of get it together in one basket. And this is really cool thing also, that ProScience is an organization which is actually responsible for PR of the researchers and scientists. And this is really important because, for example, I don't know, have you ever watched Big Bang Theory? Oh, this is so cool. It's my favorite. And there's this part when the university wants guys to promote their research, right? And Sheldon goes and Leonard goes and they make a mess because they have no idea how to talk about science. They don't know how to, PR it properly. So quite often you have people who know amazing technology, but they don't know how to sell it. They don't know how to reach out to business. And organizations like that, for example, for the conferences that they organize, or the events, help to build that bridge. And of course, as mentioned before, National Center for Research and Development. So Poland has developed, again, the biggest in the Central Europe fund for research and development. So for actually using the potential, accelerating the potential of Polish researchers, Polish innovation, Polish technology, and the companies together. So for example, if you are a company which is involved in R&D sector, you can actually pay less tax thanks to that. You can actually spend less money on that because you get extra funds, but you also can pay less tax because you're getting back the money that you're spending on the things you need to buy, like technology you need to buy, or the people time who are working on the project. But I would like to conclude, because there was a lot of statistics and that was a lot of information related to Polish and European ecosystem, and some lessons how it is done there on in my country, though I know nothing is perfect, but we are trying our best, and I have the feeling that Poland is really, really growing. But altogether, it comes back to goes to 5 skills that I think are crucial when we think about the innovation and culture for change, culture for building something, creating, developing new product, services, or changing the world in a better place. However that would sound, I really, really believe that. And I don't know if anybody of you used this book. I read it recently and I strongly recommend it. It's really, really cool one. It's called The Innovator's DNA. And I have a feeling that this book summarizes really well the 5 skills that are really important in terms of innovation. Because there was some also Harvard studies that were conducted when they tried to check whether creativity is something that people are born with or something that they develop, or creativity which is crucial for innovation. Is it something that you have to have or you can actually develop? And turns out that this is something that you can totally develop as a matter of certain skills which are called discovery skills. And everybody is creative, and it's just about empowering people, giving the space and giving the momentum, creating the space where you can actually let these skills to emerge. But before I show them, I wanted to ask you, what do you think would be the 5 skills that are crucial for innovation and development? All questions are good. All answers are good, of course. Huh? Discipline, okay. What else? Mindset, what skills? Hardworking, yeah. Problem solving, Smart thinking, yeah. Again? Definitely, setting goals. They're all important, definitely, and they're part of what I want to show you here, because they thought about it in a way that they mentioned 5 discovery skills which are crucial when you think about creating innovation and developing. And I think that all the things kind of fall into these patterns. One is this skill, associational skill. That is the skill which helps innovators discover new directions by making connections across unrelated things, topics, subjects. The best example for that probably you all know is the Steve Jobs and the way designed fonts in his laptop. Before that, nobody actually thought that that would make sense, or fonts are needed in the computers. Why? And actually, what you can learn from biography, he actually once took a calligraphy lessons, and thanks to that, he had this idea of maybe the calligraphy, that's cool. Maybe we can actually use that in creating the fonts for our Mac computers, Mac products. So associational skills, when you think that you can link things which you have never thought before and you haven't thought about it together and somehow combine them, can be unique and can be really, really insightful. But there are other skills as well. So there's questioning. Questioning is the crucial, that means understanding why things happen and asking, do they have to happen this way? If we change these things, are the other abilities? Do we really have to use fossil fuels to move? Do we really have to use fossil? How do we actually use the solar power and the energy that is created from the movement to replace using fossil fuels? do we really need to be in touch with our teacher or with our doctor? Can it somehow be online? Can we deliver this experience even in a virtual reality? Why do we have, I don't know, laptops that big? Why don't we have a laptop that is pocket size? You understand that Nokia got all of the, vanished from the market because they didn't ask these questions. They didn't think actually the smartphones would be. They thought that nobody actually will need that. And why would you, right? The important is that our phones can fall from, I don't know, the Statue of Liberty and nothing will happen, right? But how many of you remember about Nokia now? So the same with digital photography, like for example Canon as a brand which was major, and now it kind of disappeared because they didn't question what they've been doing so far. They ask different questions to find new answers. Observing, so watching the world, including customers, products, services, technologies, companies, and gathering insights. This is critical, for example, for design thinking, which is part of the designing innovation, and thinking in terms of sprint, design thinking when I think about the persona, about the user, observing, this is for example observing how AI is transforming the world we're living in. This is for example observing one of the startups which is actually very famous in Poland and was started by a guy who's 17 years old, and I don't even believe that this is something very, very unique, because they are doing the classes, they're offering the classes online, and they're helping students to prepare for their final exams. But the way they're doing it, and the way they used to create, the way they used the platform and the technology to build online tool that helps to personalize knowledge and makes it easier and more accessible, gave them huge coverage, gave them millions of euros in terms of revenue, and they are now responsible. There's 60% of the people who graduate from Polish high schools use their software, and actually they have changed the market of the landscape of the educational market totally. So another important thing, except observing, is networking. And networking is what I said before about the places like that, the areas like that, where you actually see different people, when you can talk with people from different backgrounds, when you're learning about yourself, but also about what other people do and what they are good at, and you also see what you're good at, and you get a feedback on that, and you see, wow, that was actually quite easy for me to do, and turns out it really brings a benefit to somebody else, right? Because quite often we are thinking that what we're doing must be simple because it comes to us so easy. That means that this is just a competence level that we are not even aware of, that is our talent, because for somebody else doing research might be it's easy, for somebody else spatial thinking might be a problem. For me this is, for example, something very easy to do. For me it's not. I don't even differentiate left from right. I can really get lost in whatever street I am at. So building network is crucial, and I wanted to give you here an example of, I think this is the example, I use it quite often, but I think it shows the best what networking power is. As I mentioned you, I'm also involved in mentoring programs, and with my friends I've been developing for 9 years already one of the first mentoring programs in Poland, Mentors for Starters. And this program is dedicated to people who are around 30 and who want to make a change in their careers. It's not only, it's definitely not only startup related. They are from different walks of life. They're corporate, NGO, public sector, startup, private companies, family companies, everything. Anyways, we joined them with senior CEOs, best-known managers and leaders in Poland, and these leaders give their time for free for 6 mentoring sessions, but also we provide the community. And I remember a few years ago when we were starting one of the batches, when we were starting a new season, there were 2 guys joining. And we always have this networking meeting. In Poland it's possible and it's quite common to drink wine at that time, so we went to a winery together, they are sitting, and there were 2 guys who were spending the whole evening just talking to each other. They didn't even talk to other people. I was actually pissed off a bit interested because, I was one of the organizers. I wanted them to interact, and they were just talking. One guy at that moment was working on a stock exchange, and another guy was working as a UX manager at IBM. Next day, one of these guys calls me, a bit tipsy still, and we found we are going to do a startup together. We are like, oh, this is ideal, and he's like, hardly even understand what he's saying, but he has a brilliant idea for a startup, right? He says, oh, Asia, because that's my the name in Polish, we have really great idea, we're going to build a startup together. And I'm, yeah, sure, first find your code, right? Because he forgot his code. And it turns out that actually, they've been both thinking about the problem that they had, that they wanted to use catering. It's quite popular not to make your food, but just to get it delivered. But they didn't know where and how. And they created an online marketplace for catering, different catering businesses in Poland, when you can easily compare. It's just like a platform when you can find it, literally Google it, order, whatever. And it turns out to be such a success that they were bought by the biggest convenience store brand in Poland called Żabka, which is like 7-Eleven type of thing, which is literally on every corner. And after a year of combining their regular work with their new project, they resigned from their positions and started working together. And for me, this is the best example of the power of networking, because the power of networking is to be open to new ideas, to be open to new people who are from different walks of life, but then they share your values and they want to solve the problem that is also important to you. And this networking as a place like that also definitely support that. But last but not least is experimenting. And I have the feeling that this is something we as humans a bit, and it's natural because we're all experimenting, we're creative as by nature, but also quite often risk reserved. We are kind of reserved in terms of taking a risk, and it's normal, but it's very important, at least now in Poland this is trending and we talk a lot about it, to tell about your failures but learn from them, not to be afraid of making a mistake, not to be afraid of failure, but rather see it as potential to growth and taking the risk and experimenting. So if this mindset is changing, that for example the corporation is able to invest certain amount of money to experiment, and even if it works out perfectly, if this technology won't work out, doesn't mean it's failure, it just didn't work out, but at least we tried out. Maybe something else we can learn from that. The same when we start with our projects. So we are organizing, for example, fuck-up nights. These are the meetings where people talk about their fuck-ups and the situations where they struggled with business-wise or even life-wise, and we can all learn from that because nobody's perfect. And unless we understand and we give each other free, like the kids have, to experiment, to understand. Kids' creativity, there are many research related to that. We as kids are so creative and we want to just innovate, it's natural, but then it all gets crushed when we get to schools, because we are marked by the results, what matters is the result, not the process. So how you think, if you work with other people, how your mind thinks, how do you innovate. So this curiosity and also experimenting, openness to experiment, it's one of the crucial things that was mentioned. Also in this book that I highly recommend. And all these things that I've before, I think they can relate to all these skills as well: networking, observing, questioning, experimenting, and so on. And one of the last things why these skills are important, because when you look at the business life cycle and the skills, especially in the startup stage, the delivery skills are crucial. Because otherwise you wouldn't think about the new ideas, you wouldn't think about how to explore new options, how to build new business models, how to change the market or the potential of the market, how to use the potential of the market. Though when you have the growth stage and the mature stage of the organization. That means this is a well-set company, and the mature stage is, I would say, a corporate that just functioning sector that is working on the market, that has certain share on the market delivery skills, such as operational work, project management work, etc., organizing, analytical thinking, everything there. These are the skills that matter most, because this is about building processes, scaling, structuring things, building the position on the market. But you see that at some point, at the harvest stage, again, delivery skills discovery skills start to matter as much as delivery skills. Why is that important? Because at some point you see that the business model of the organization that you're working in is finishing, or something is changing. The energy sector is the best example of that. Everything could just work as it was working, but through the global warming, through the climate change, and the problems that emerge, that means these companies cannot operate as they used to anymore. They have to reinvent themselves. That means that even a huge sector which is well set, which makes a ton of money, has to kind of go back to the, let's say, startups, like spin-off, then you would say, stage, where they have to find new ways to do the things that they were doing, or to find new sources of income, new business model, new purpose, why they're there and why they're doing what they're doing. So this is this diagram that would, the cycle. And the last thing is that the model itself shows that you have like a timeline, like a flow that helps you to actually reach the innovative business ideas. First, you have the courage to innovate, so challenging the status quo, taking the risk, asking questions, not being afraid to ask questions. Then you have the behavioral skills, that means questioning, observing, networking, experimenting, all these things that I've mentioned before, but also the cognitive skills, to synthesize the knowledge you gathered, to kind of connect the dots, to see how things can work together. So associating cognitive skills, things related to your mind, to your thinking, all together to create the potential for creative business ideas and redefining things, and also fulfilling your own potential. And last but not least, I've been a bit, but I would actually like to learn more from you and what your experience is about the ecosystem in Pakistan and how is it growing. I've learned about the startups which are now emerging and happen to grow in Pakistan, but also the incubators like the one where I'm here today, and I'm very happy to be. Yes, again, let me say that I'm really, really honored, because I think that exchanging knowledge and information is really basic for the innovation and the growth, so I'm also here to learn. But also the Pakistani Startup Fund, which, to my knowledge, is just really recent thing, very new from yesterday, I believe. And I believe that this is something that can bring a huge change to the country, because as I mentioned before, in this Polish ecosystem and European ecosystem, startups and innovation are really supported by the governmental funds and by the European funds, and that brings a bit of the stability to people, especially those who are young and want to, innovate, and at the beginning they're in a very early stage in their business. So this is more about this local region. Anybody would like to comment on that? Learn as well. Any information you can share with me? Yes. Oh, great. So you know some of them. Okay, awesome. Awesome. So this is a thriving community too, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you. So So yeah, so this is what I have prepared. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Hope I made it clear and interesting for you. And thank you very much for listening and for invitation. In case you would like to reach me, reach out to me. This is my social media. Thank you very much. Shukriya. Should I now give over to someone or somebody has questions? It's very warm here, right? Or just for me or for you? Warm. I feel like it's very hot. Especially that usually I got used to the fact that indoors in Pakistan in winter is rather cold, right? So I'm actually putting a lot on myself, because if I'm going to be inside, I think it's a bit colder. And this is a different perspective. Yeah, but anyways, I think if you have any questions, I'm open. I will be here for a while. So thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if there's any other plan, but I think we're waiting for the... Okay, thanks. It's not working. Okay. This is a very good question in terms of careers, because I used to think that the careers, or it used to be like that, if you do A, then it means B. You have very clear path. You don't zigzag at all. And actually, when I look at myself and when I look at the people, at least 300 people a year I recruit for the mentoring programs, everybody have zigzag careers. This is so normal. And the statistics for example, World Economic Forum say that we will have to change our professions few times. So not even a job, but that means profession. So therefore, how to actually use the skills that you have and as a transferable skills. So the skills you can use no matter what industry. And I have the feeling that the basic questions we ask ourselves in a wrong way is, or we are asked when we are young, who you want to be? Like, oh, you want to be a firefighter, you want to be a pilot, you want to be a medical doctor, whatever. This question, it's not, I don't want to say, not polite word, but it's like so-so, let's say, in the sense that it doesn't bring you anywhere. It's, of course, there are some people who already know that they want to have career, and it's fine for them, but most of us don't. So the better question to ask is what type of problems you want to develop in the future, what types of challenges you want to take, what are the skills you want to use in your professional life, how do you want to contribute, how somebody else will, how will he benefit from skills. And when you think in those terms, you start from to be a job creator instead of job seeker, right? So you start to really think in terms that I do something. I don't have to fit in the box, because there are no boxes anymore. And no matter, I think, in which country, because there's a global market now, there will be a need to diversify, a need to switch careers, be able to switch careers, at the same time kind of specialize in. And how you do it and how I see, or I explain that, I kind of use a metaphor of a tree, in a sense that when you are at the beginning of your career journey, let's say, you just see the tree and you look at this tree and you think it's wow, nice and gorgeous and enormous. You start to climb and you see that the tree looks different from different angles. It's actually much bigger than you imagined, right? It's much bigger than you knew. So you're starting exploring something. By tree, I understand the sector, the things that you're interested in, education, energy, technology, medicine whatsoever. And then you see that there are different branches you can sit on, like you can specialize in. And then it might happen during the way, and it's totally fine, that you think, oh, this is a wrong tree. Actually, I've been to, but I never knew that because I have never been on that tree before. I haven't climbed that before. So from this perspective, things look different. Then I have to climb, then I have to go this and there. Then you decide whether you want to go up in this tree or maybe you want to go in different directions. You know, that means more horizontal career or more vertical career in the management. And then you can ask yourself a question, is it a matter of that I need to actually go down and climb another tree, that means changing the career, or maybe the change I need is just to kind of climb to a different branch of the tree, so I have a different angle, or find a tree, go to a branch, and I can jump to another tree, which is quite close, you know, because trees, when they grow, they develop their branches and they somehow connect, they interlink, you know what I mean? So this is how I explain these changing careers. So first thing, whether this is like totally wrong tree, or maybe you can just jump a bit on this tree and jump somewhere else. And all these options are possible. There is no such a thing like a good answer, I believe, because nowadays the world is so complicated and so different, and you never know where it's going to lead you. So I don't know if that explains, but I have the feeling that many people switch and it's normal. Oh, there are various organizations that I'm associated with that helps with mentoring. I do it as my own brand, so I do it individually as Edy Mentorka. I do it with Perspective Educational Foundation, and I do it with Mentors for Starters Foundation. Thanks. Anybody has? Yeah? Yeah, I enjoy it. Oh, a lot. Like, I ate so much here. Mm-hmm. If I understand, you mean how to... Mm-hmm. Okay. At AI, for example? I think that one thing is that there's a lot of open source now that you can use to get advanced, but also the talent that you have here as a country in terms of technical talents combined together with exchanging knowledge, network, especially that I've met many people from Pakistan who study abroad and have these experiences of studying abroad, and they come back. So they come back with different know-how. So this combined, and also linking this with the institutions and the research institutions who provide you the practical aspect of that. So the tools, for example, the equipment where you can, if I understood the question correctly, this is how, and especially that, for example, the Kurzweil, there's the methodology, or there's the research that says, Kurzweil says that in the next 100 years, technology development will be equal to 20,000 years up to date. So that means this, what happened in the last 20,000 years will happen in the next 100 years in technology. That is immense. But I also see that this has its pros and cons, because world at one point you can think that technology makes the world more democratic and equal, but actually it does not, because you see even in your country there are people who are really advanced, who have that technology, high technology, and there are people who don't have, for example, access to the internet. So this is like at the same time a huge opportunity and a huge threat, right? In a sense. And in terms of hospitality, this country is perfect. I think like you should do a lot with your tourism, and so many of my friends wants to come here and visit, but everywhere I go I just or get presents or get food, even the spicy food which I cannot eat. So I'm experiencing various, symptoms, but I got to realize my one and only. So thank you very much. Shukriya.